It's safe to say when you look at the top players in the NHL, Sidney Crosby comes to mind, Jonathan Tavares, and how about Steven Stamkos? Yes, the man has scored 50 goals before, he can do it again, and what I like about him is his playmaking ability, making your teammates better. And I feel that's what Steven Stamkos' game, or at least the most underrated part of his game is helping out and setting up, case in point, against the Vancouver Canucks on Saturday. But with that said, you look at those guys, especially the way Steven Stamkos is, you know he's most valuable to his team. Same thing with Tavares. If Crosby goes down, they still have the pieces to help. But out of those three guys that I mentioned, in particular Stamkos, who's my personal favorite, is he, Stamkos, the better of those three players on the planet today?
I'm going to go with yes. I think when you look at, we were talking about Tavares in the break, and he's on a weaker team. So it's so easy for him to shine because he's the one who everybody's giving the puck to, I almost said the ball to, the puck to. So he's going to score a lot of goals. But Stamkos, he outshines even on this incredibly strong lineup. So the fact that he's doing that, he's almost scored 2 hat tricks this season. And we're 10 games in? Mm-hmm. So he is just, I think he's dominating at this point right now. Is he the best out of the three all time in their past 10 years? Debatable, but right now he's the best.
You know, Stamkos reminds me a lot of another guy, Gretzky, in a way, because Stamkos and Gretzky are both players that are 2 steps ahead. And that they're players that when you talk to them about their game, and Stamkos has said this time and time again, that the game slows right down for him. While everybody's moving a mile a minute, when he has the puck, it slows right down. And when you're a pro athlete, doesn't matter what sport it is, when the game slows down for you, it becomes very easy. That's why the game looks so easy for the likes of Crosby and Jonathan and Tavares. You know, they're just very solid hockey players.
Out of those guys, though, would you agree that Stamkos is the best player on the planet right now?
Right now, as we're speaking tonight, yes. Crosby, though, he has done some great things internationally, too. Stamkos still has to do that.
Yes.
Stamkos still has to win a Stanley Cup. Stamkos still has to be a standout at the Olympics. Once he does that, then he becomes the elite player.
And I think Stamkos has had some unluck, like last year, injured, wasn't able to compete for the Olympics, obviously would have been there. So if all the stars can align for him, I think he'll be in that category too, but it's just a matter of him working out his own body.
Talk about stars being aligned. You gotta love the Kansas City Royals. This team did not have 90 wins, neither did the Giants. Both wild card entries, both in the finals, which start tonight. Who do you have to win the whole thing? Royals, Giants?
This one, honestly, is a really tough one for me to answer because on one side, the Giants have the experience of having won it and been there 2 times in the last 6 years. That's huge. Just to have that in your mind and to know how to perform at that level. Whereas KC, here they are just like these young rookies who are just like, holy crap, we're here, we're doing so well. They're trying not to think about it so much. But then I think about the fact that they had 4 first-round draft picks, so they've got this great talent. A lot of them played together in the minors for a long time, so they've got the chemistry. But can they sustain this? Or will the pressure get to them when they realize?
Love ignorance. I think these kids are ignorant to the fact. That's great, especially with Ned Yost. I think he's got them on a level head.
Yeah, for Kansas City, it's really impressed me is their bullpen. Because they're a team that if you don't score on them and if you don't have a lead on them in the first 5 to 6 innings, you're done. Because their bullpen is automatic from the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning. And if you give them a lead going into those innings, you're not going to win. And San Francisco has a lot of experience and they have won some big games. And I think in the end, that's going to win out for them. I think that experience of winning before and trying to win again is going to win out for them. It's going to be a long series. It's going to be a fun series. I say it's going to go in 6 or 7.
Okay, so you're saying Royals. You're saying Royals as well?
I'm saying Giants. I'm saying
Giants.
You're saying Giants.
Saying Giants in 6 or 7. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm agreeing with you. I think that there's enough ignorance on KC that they can take it. I think that they're just, this is the greatest moment of their lives, and they're going to seize it. And I think that the Giants already having won 2, they might say, they kind of might let off because they have that. But KC is hungry, and I think that sometimes hunger wins out.
All right, guys, we're going to move on to the NHL once again. Paul Maurice and the Winnipeg Jets. What can you say? They've really struggled. Fans are frustrated. Media is frustrated. Coach is frustrated. Of course, comments with Blake Wheeler talking about accountability. Then, of course, you had Maurice, Paul Maurice, the head coach, come out and start blasting the media. Now, guys, there was a lot of frustration. You could tell that's pent up on a head coach. And when you have somebody on the outside saying, hey, what do you make comments of your players saying this about the locker room, the atmosphere, who's accountable, who's not. It could get to a boil point. Now, with this, is it just frustration, or is there a little bit more to the outburst that Paul Maurice had during the press conference?
You know, this one's tough. I watched that press conference a couple times, and I tried to digest what was going on in that press conference. And I think that what is happening in the locker room is now translating a bit to be public. And there's so much frustration. This team hasn't made the playoffs ever since they've been back in Winnipeg. And what pissed me off more, though, is that Blake Wheeler's talking about accountability. As an athlete, you are accountable for your own actions. Sure, you hold your other teammates accountable too, but the coach is just there to guide you. It comes down to your plate at the end of the day.
But would it not filter down, though? Like, the coach has to set a certain precedent, am I right?
Yeah, and the thing is that irritates me about this is, and Wheeler shouldn't be talking about his other teammates like that. That's one thing. You know, what happens behind closed doors stays behind closed doors. But you know what? I'm a member of the media, was a member of the media. There's a lot of weasel media members out there that try to dig up stories, and these players don't know how to answer them correctly. And for Maurice to say what he did, he should. You know, if you want to know what happens behind our closed doors, that's our business. If you have any questions regarding what's happening on the ice, I'll answer those.
Okay, but I think this is just Blake Wheeler being honest with the media, because if you look at the players on that roster, if there's one player you had to pick out and said is playing well or being consistent or, you know, putting out the blood and guts, whatever superlatives you want to throw out there, it is Blake Wheeler. He's going out there shift after shift, and he's playing very well. So it could be frustration on his part. Maybe that was taking advantage, but don't you feel there is some, you know, at least justice or something well-deserved for a media person to say, hey, if a player's frustrated, why don't I ask the coach?
Yeah, but if the coach doesn't want to answer that, they should leave it well enough alone. Don't try to dig up a story on it.
I'm also going to say on the flip side, I think this could be a good thing for the Jets, because sometimes bringing these problems to light, now you have to deal with it in the locker room. You have to figure out these issues, and it could be kind of a blessing in disguise. Like, let's work out whatever's happening.
All right, guys, move on to Slava Voynov, suspended indefinitely by the LA Kings in the NHL after a domestic abuse or alleged domestic abuse assault led with him and his girlfriend now. The NHLPA has said Voynov should be able to play. They argue that the suspension is based merely on allegations and it fails to respect the due process. Of course, you're innocent till proven guilty. With the stance the NHLPA has, and of course with the recent, allegations you've seen, not just with this, but in the NFL with domestic abuse, do you feel that the NHL and the LA Kings did the right thing, or should they allow him to play until due process is done?
They're doing exactly what they should be doing. They're doing what the NFL should have done too. The NFL dragged their feet on it, and what could have been nipped in the bud right off the get-go and been done, the story developed, and we got the TMZ video and everything else. But the NHL jumped on it right away, and that's what the NFL should have done, and that's what the NHL is doing right now.
I agree. I think you have to get on it right away, set a precedent, send a message. Yeah, the NFL did it a little later, and then we saw the Adrian Peterson thing come out, all that stuff. On one side of things, though, I think the NHLPA is doing what it has to do. They have to, is it wrong that they've done this without actual allegations being made? But you have to get this. That's their job, to protect the player, right? So they have to come out with a statement like that, or else they're not doing their job.
Well, they're desperate for a running back, and that's how much it is. Speaking of desperation, we're desperate to pay our bills. So we're going to take a 2-minute timeout. And when we return, we're going to have Over Under next.